Hi, and welcome back to Mingus on Tech. I'm Ken Mingus, Executive Editor at Computer World. I'm here with Computer World's Apple guru and expert Michael DeGonia, Macworld's Mike Simon. We're going to talk about the iPhone 10 and how it fits into the enterprise. Stick around. Okay, so when we think about the iPhone 10, first I should note, I think, Mike, you made the point earlier that we have about
Which Mike are we talking
you,
about?
Mike,
I was gonna say.
Mike Simon. We were talking about how much valuable phoneage we have on the table here. We've got three iPhone 10s, 256 gigs. We all three got up early about a week ago, 3 a.m., to order these things to make sure, or 2 weeks ago, to make sure that they would arrive on delivery day a week ago. And I've been thinking about them because, of course, you know, I'm an iPhone fan. I'm an Apple fan. Mike DeGonia here is too. You go back and forth.
I go back and
Android.
forth. I mean, I've had probably all the iPhones, but yeah, my flag flies all over the place.
Okay, Desert Island. You got one phone.
Right now, it's this one.
Okay. But the reason I wanted to talk about it a little bit, we'll get into some of the details and how they are to use. But I've been thinking about, you know, why this might be the best phone for the enterprise right now. And I mean, some of this applies to iPhones broadly. It's not just the iPhone 10. When you think about one of the things that makes these popular or a good choice is iOS, because it's a secure operating system. When it gets rolled out, most phones adopt it, or most users adopt it, put it on their phones very quickly. I think Apple just said yesterday that 52% of all of its iDevices are now running iOS 11.
Which is actually lower than
Yeah,
normal because of the iPhone and the upgrade cycle that they pushed it back a month.
Right, exactly, because you had the 8 and the 8
Right.
Plus come out in September. You had the iPhone 10 come out in November.
Android Oreo, I think, is at 0.5%.
0.5 about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So inherently secure
Yeah.
because you're getting the latest operating system from Apple rolled out to most devices fairly quickly. In particular with the iPhone 10, we've got the move from Touch ID to Face ID. I believe Apple has said that Touch ID there's like a 1 in 50,000 chance someone could duplicate your fingerprints or fingerprint and get to the phone, whereas there's a 1 in a million chance on Face ID that someone can duplicate your face, making it more secure. And this again applies broadly to iPhones in general. There's a lot of software suites out there, MDM, EMM suites, that allow these things to be managed and provisioned fairly well in the corporate environment. So, you know, with those things in mind, this being the latest and greatest with the most recent chip, the revised camera system, the OLED screen, I'm saying this is the best phone for the workplace on the market right now.
And now with the,
Tell me I'm wrong
with
or
the-
I'm right, or
No. I mean, I think
Thoughts?
I'm not in that world. I don't approach these phones from that kind of vantage point. But
right.
that based on what you're saying, of course, iOS is more secure, just as a general sweeping statement. I
Right.
mean, Android isn't insecure or unsecure. The problem with Android is unless you have a Google phone, you're not getting an update. You're not getting the security updates when you should. You're not getting the point upgrades when you should, and you're certainly not getting full upgrades.
Right.
Sometimes never. And that's just a problem. It's not going to go away. Google's trying. There's things like Project Trouble where they're working with OEMs to try to speed these things up, but it's an impossibility. There's too many phones. There's too many skins. There's too many forks. It's never going to happen. Apple, they come out with an upgrade like we just got 11.1, which now lets us type the capital I again.
I like my capital I. I'm glad that's been fixed.
But
Yeah.
that
So
came out
bizarre.
in 4 days.
Right.
If that was a Google problem, Google would have to either roll it out on their server side and push it out to all these devices, which still takes a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Or it would be Android 7.1.2 or 7.2.1, and
And then who knows which devices that will get.
It's going to depend
So-
on your carrier
Right.
whether you get to do your capital I or
carrier
not.
and your manufacturer.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
So there's two people in your way, whereas Apple just says this is it. You buy a phone from us, you have upgrades. They don't guarantee it, but it's pretty much at least for 3 years. Maybe even pushing 4.
Yeah. And of course, I should point out that given the fact that this is an OLED screen and it's got a glass back, Apple Care is a very good idea.
$200 now too.
Yeah, it's gone up. It was $149 before it's $199, right?
Yes,
or something like that.
I don't remember if it was $129 or $149, but it's definitely $200 now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually enclosed in the iPhone upgrade program from Apple. Comes with the Apple Care, which is a good thing because otherwise generic repairs on the iPhone 10 are $550.
That's just a start.
And then $280 for the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean it's a lot, but look at what you're dealing with.
Right.
Here, But
which makes it much better and easier to justify purchasing Apple Care.
You do only get 2
accidental drops, right? After that, you're on your own.
And it is included with the iPhone upgrade program, but you are paying for it.
You are paying for it.
It's not gratis.
Right, right. It's zero interest, but you are paying for it for sure.
Yeah.
So and it's I can't say anything bad about this phone. I can't really say
I didn't really
anything.
think you would. I have to admit, neither can I.
I mean, like that's not nitpicky.
No.
You know what I mean? Because like what surprised when I first got this, what surprised me was a little bit of the color shift because I haven't seen that in an iPhone in a while. You know, that made me.
The idea being that even if you've got True Tone turned on, if you're looking at the screen from the side,
From
you're going to get a little bit of a blue
angle.
shift.
Yeah, you get that blue shift. But other than that, I mean, and I'm used to the plus.
Right.
You know,
that would be if I had to say I mean, it's not something that's wrong with the phone. The phone, I do agree. I'm pleasantly surprised. I have wondered since this was first announced whether any phone could be justified at the price that Apple's charging, $1149 for
the Note 8 is $950. The Pixel XL tops off at $950. I mean,
even last year's models.
They've all gone up.
Yeah,
all the prices have gone up, which is interesting. But Apple really took the price.
They took a pretty. I mean, it's 100. What is it? 150 to go from 64 gigs to 256.
Right.
Even if you've got iCloud, you've got iCloud storage and things like that. I'm a big believer in trying to buy as much storage on the device as you can.
Absolutely.
And I actually did buy Apple Care for this little baby for the first time ever. I've never had
go with the upgrade program.
No, I bought it. I bought it through the AT&T Next program.
Gotcha.
And that did not include Apple Care.
Right.
So I did the thing where I got my phone and then called Apple, and they do a diagnostic to make sure the phone is working and it's my phone, and then get the Apple Care. So I could throw this across the floor and drop it, and
only
but
twice.
I would never do that. Only twice.
Don't do that.
But I mean, the point being that for company, I'm going to presume that most companies that are going to be spending money, maybe it's just the CEO, whoever he or she is, wants the iPhone 10, that Apple Care would be part of the package. And if a company is supplying
for enterprise, it has to be.
Yeah,
it has to be. There's too many mistakes. There's too many. People make too many mistakes. There's way
phones,
too many.
They turn them down.
They drop laptops.
I do say my brother is
never mind phones.
My brother's a lawyer in New York City, and he gets a company phone every 2 years. And I saw him a few months ago, and I said, "There's a big giant crack in your screen."
Yeah. And
he goes, "Oh, I got to wait until September to upgrade."
Oh,
so
tragic, man.
It's not automatic where businesses still care about the bottom line. And that's $200 per phone on top of what you're paying for.
Right.
So I don't think it's automatic that they're getting Apple Care because that's really mostly cosmetic.
Yeah.
If you're going to drop your phone, if you're going to scratch your phone, that's on you.
Sure, but when the entire device
I'm not saying
is
not
made
to
of
get
glass,
it. Yeah, no, I'm all for it.
You agree it's a good
sides?
idea.
Yeah.
Just
I
that companies may be
If our company bought me this phone, I would buy Apple Care for it on my own.
Interesting.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
I'm
not sure it's an automatic company purchase.
Here on IDG, most of the machines that we purchase come with the warranty.
Yeah.
The Apple Care or the equivalent PC warranty.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a as personalized as you can get as a PC. It's your smartphone. This has everything, including company information.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. If you're wondering whether or not you should have Apple Care on this device,
the answer is yes.
Yeah,
the answer is a resounding
yes.
That's
definite.
Okay. Well, let's talk about these things now because we've all had about a week or so to put them through their paces, take a look at the screen, try Face ID. I've taken some photos with it. You've done some camera portrait.
I went to New York
tweaks.
as well. I took some pictures in and around New York.
Let's talk first about Face ID. Because I have to admit, I'm really surprised that it works as well as it does.
Yeah, one thing I'm noticing, and just sitting here, so you got a notification. I have a couple, and so do you. We can't see them,
Right.
because we're not looking at our phones.
Right.
Right.
And that is, you know, if you want to talk about enterprise, that is an awesome security feature.
Absolutely.
Where even if you lose your phone or you drop your phone or someone steals your phone,
They
Yeah.
can't see your notifications.
right,
They
something
can't see what that
just
is.
like
Right, because it
most
just says
basic-
notification until I
Yes,
look at the
until
phone,
you
the
see
lock
it.
unlocks, and then I can see.
Or
you know.
yeah, right.
So
Until
you're on
it
an
knows
airplane
it's you.
traveling or something like that. Or
Yeah,
in-
and you know, if you're getting a sensitive email or a sensitive, you know, whatever it is, that's a big deal.
yeah.
And that was always available on the iPhone. It's just it was off by
Right.
default, and most people didn't use it because it was a pain because you had to do the Touch ID to see it. You know, it wasn't.
It was an extra
intuitive.
step. It
Yeah,
absolutely was an
yeah.
extra step.
And most people probably didn't even know it was there
Right.
because it was off.
No, I've been really surprised at how easy it was to set up. You know, you do the thing where
Yeah,
you look at
very
the
easy.
camera, move your head around,
Mhm.
you know, a few times both ways.
And it even shows you, like, as the thing's going around, which area it still needs to get.
Right.
Whereas Touch ID was a little less so, where
Right.
you kind of move
Position
it
it
around
this
and-
way. You still have to.
And then it would yell at you and tell you to lift your finger and move it around.
this did not yell at me. But I mean, even in what I would consider almost complete darkness. I mean, like
Totally. Yeah,
like
I
right
actually
at
I
night.
went into a closet, shut the door,
Yep.
and no problem because the screen lights your face up enough where it sees.
You
and
can
that's
read it.
Yeah.
I tried it in you know bright daylight and it worked. I mean, there are some. It's not foolproof.
No.
You
Right.
know, it could be a touch faster.
Yeah.
Mainly because after Touch ID for 3 years, you expect it to go right to the home screen and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It unlocks and you still got to do that extra swipe,
Why
which
is
does
that?
take
Why did
longer.
Apple do it that way?
Well, so you can see the notifications first.
Maybe.
So you can see your notifications and then swipe to get
Because
actually into
it
the
does
computer.
feel like there's a half second
It
or a
is.
half step, kind of like, okay, look at the phone, unlock, and I'm
Yeah.
like waiting for it to go automatically to the home screen,
Right.
and you still
No,
have to
that's
do this
what it
swipe up.
does is it unlocks the way they have it set up. It unlocks the notifications.
And you can
That's
do
what
it
we're
in
saying.
one swipe.
Right.
Yeah, you
But
can just swipe up and then
my
it'll unlock.
my thumb isn't trained yet to do that.
Gotcha.
So
I think I've only tried to go for the home button like 3 times, and that was really on the first day.
Yeah.
And then after that, that was going to be the second thing I want to talk about. Obviously, when you're taking away an iconic, and of course a piece of the security for the phone, an iconic thing like the Touch ID button, and you have to come up with new gestures to sort of mimic the things that you're used to doing. That's a lot of muscle memory that you
Yeah.
have to unlearn.
Right.
I unlearned it surprisingly quickly.
because it's intuitive. You know, the gesture that you think should work
Right.
generally doesn't. It's
Right.
Swipe up,
that
swipe
flick,
down.
the
Yeah.
flick,
the
flick the
the-
app away essentially.
The swiping through apps is just awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
you know,
it's so responsive and
Yeah.
fluid.
Well, they
It's-
have you know, it's funny you mentioned that. Not funny, but it's interesting you mentioned that because when you touch the screen,
It switches to
It's-
120.
yeah, which is
it's
huge.
120. Yeah, it just ups the refresh rate,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
of the screen itself, but of the
of
display.
the touch motion.
Exactly.
So the animations are just so
Right.
fast.
It makes the OS feel lightweight.
Yes.
Like you're just
Yes.
chucking apps around. You
Mhm.
swiping.
Well,
swiping
I mean,
between-
you made the
it's so
point
good.
that you know, especially with the OLED screen, that when you're navigating through things, it doesn't feel like you're touching a screen. It feels
Right.
like you're touching.
the actual graphics for
Yeah.
the most part. If the other versions of the iPhone, including the iPhone 8, actually feels like there's a layer, a glass layer.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously there is between the glass and the graphics. But on this iPhone, it's the OLED screen just makes everything look like it's right on top. It makes it look like it's Photoshop. That
Yeah.
doesn't look
It looks like a sticker on top of the screen,
Right.
Like a color form that you
that
have to
realistic.
peel off.
Yeah.
it's unbelievable that
Yeah.
just the difference. And
And what also helps with the experience is the symmetry.
Yeah.
This is the first phone, I think, ever. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but certainly the first one that I've used and the first one of the major flagships that has complete symmetry around the whole device. The Samsung, you have that infinity display where it goes, but it has the bar on the top and the bottom.
Right.
LG is the same thing. Even the Essential phone, which made a big deal out of its camera thing, but the bottom has a big, it's not big, but it's a
A
sliver.
chin.
So it takes you out of the immersiveness
Yep.
when you look a little too high up or a little. This one, everywhere you look, it's a perfect edge, and that includes the notch because that kind of works with the
Right.
fluidity of the device.
right.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the notch? Is it distracting?
Not in the slightest.
No, I actually kind of like it because it's, you know, when it just sort of orients me when I'm looking at the phone.
Yeah.
You know that this is the top and this is what I should be looking at, or this
And
is
it adds a character.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitively iPhone. It's a,
Right.
you know, you're not going to confuse it with an until everyone else starts doing it.
Right.
You're not going to confuse it with another
Device,
manufacturer.
of course.
But what I like most about it is the way they've used the status bar.
Mm-hmm.
And
You mean by putting things on
By
either
putting things
side,
on-
in
and-
the ears,
and
ears
they're-
or horns? What do we call it?
Horns are good.
I
Yeah,
think
they look more
horns.
like
It's more
horns.
masculine.
Yeah.
Ears is kind of cheesy. I don't know. Anyway,
But I like how they split it up. But I also like how it's a little bit more interactive, for lack of a better word. That's not interactive,
Right.
but
Well, it has a lot more animations. It
Yeah.
kind of lets you know what's going on.
and while you're doing
Right.
something, like if you're say you're recording a screenshot,
Right.
you know, like a screen recording, the top
Yeah,
left
it'll give you that
will show you
indication.
how much time you've been recording.
Same thing with CarPlay.
Yes,
It lets you know when
CarPlay,
you're
or
when
even
you're
just a
connected to
regular
CarPlay.
map, like
Right.
Waze or something.
Yeah.
It'll throw the navigation up there with your little symbol. It turns it blue.
Exactly.
There's a Reddit app, Apollo, that when you raise the volume's up there.
Nice.
So
Nice.
there's a lot that you can do with this, and going forward, I think it's going to be one of the more defining aspects of this phone to really, once again, just increase that immersiveness
Right.
and get all those little controls out of the way until you
Right.
need them. Like I want to be able to tap on the battery indicator and see the percentage. I want to
I
tap
do
on
too.
the
I miss my
time and see the-
percentage up
yeah.
there. I really do because it's
Well,
something
you can
I
just swipe
I
down.
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
You
but
got to
that's the
swipe
whole
in,
thing.
and then the control set. No, it should be right
My
there.
bad, I'm just
No, I'm
saying.
serious. But you know, you make a good point because you know, I don't think people really believed Apple when they said, no, you know, we like the notch,
Yeah.
we've embraced the notch, we're
Right.
doing things with the notch.
Yeah.
That all sounds like we had to do a notch,
Right.
and we have to pretend that we really like it.
Yeah, the lead up with the pictures and whatnot, it kind of
It did. In
was
pictures, it
dis-
looks goofy. I
Right,
agree.
it was distracting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, why is that there? But when you're actually using it,
Yep.
the fact that the OLED display kind of blends right into the rest of the device.
Right.
It's like, unless you're staring at it directly in direct sunlight or whatever, you can't really tell where the screen stops, where the display stops, and the actual device part of it begins.
Right.
And it's not really that distracting.
And you're not
In
losing.
use.
The notch isn't taking away screen at
No,
all.
right.
it feels
If
like an
anything,
add-on.
It is
Right.
because, all right, so if this was black, then the status bar gets pushed lower and then you have less.
Right.
Right.
Like on Android phones.
Yep.
Because you have the black bar, then you have a status bar, and then the screen starts.
Right. Right.
So a 6.3-inch screen turns into a 6.21-inch screen.
Yeah.
Sure.
What surprises me is how quickly the look of the, no offense to anybody with an iPhone 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or whatever, but the older phones
Yeah.
suddenly look like a screen embedded in a bunch of plastic.
Sure.
Right.
When I see them,
Right.
my partner's got one. He's got an iPhone 6 or something. I think it's a 6. And I look at that and I'm like, wow. And I mean, until I got this a week ago and actually had a chance to really look at it and use it, when you get used to looking at this screen from end to end, you realize how clunky the old models look.
Yeah, and the newer Android phones really showed that as well, like the Samsung and the LG V30. The iPhone 7 and 8, it's an old design.
It's an old design. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been like 4,
There's no way to
5, 6.
sugarcoat it. Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
this goes
27 years
again
old.
to the point that Tim Cook made with these phones, that this is the phone that sets the direction for the next 10 years.
right. No
Absolutely.
question.
And
Absolutely.
I again, it's hard to not think that that's just hype until you get your hands on the device or get to an Apple store and
Right.
get a chance to try one out. But once you get to using it, I get what he's talking about in terms of the design. You
Right.
know?
Right. It's kind of it's easy to look at this and be like, okay, you guys are just excited because y'all just bought new phones.
Oh yeah, we totally sound like fanboys. No
Yeah.
question. There's no
But-
question.
But the truth is, you use this, and if you're accustomed, it doesn't matter what device you're coming from. This is a brilliant device with great gestures, and the interface is fluid.
And you can't really appreciate
Right.
it until you spend a little bit of time with it.
Right, and you certainly can't. If somebody's gonna, look at the things we're saying and say, okay, you guys again are just fanboying it, you're just excited about it. It's like, yeah, we get that, but use it,
Yeah.
and you'll see. I mean, because it's one thing for us to say, hey, this thing's probably one of the best displays out there on the market, but it's another thing for you to use that display day
And
in
actually see
and
that.
day out.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
and
and-
then go back to another phone. It's just like, oh, okay, I see.
Well, I mean, this is not in any way,
Right, we're not bagging any
No,
other
no.
phones.
There are a lot of other. We were talking to a coworker before we started filming, and he has the new Pixel. I think he's got the Pixel 2 XL, and we were comparing the screens and looking at the color saturation, looking at the color shift, and the Pixel XL Pixel 2 XL.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, when you're using it by itself, It looks like a great phone. It is a nice phone. I'm sure it's worth what you pay for it. But when you put it side by side with the iPhone and start to really say, you look at the color shift, the colors, the screen. He was talking about it feels plastic. Just to tap on it just feels like a little bit more of a plasticky feel to it. That's where I'm coming at this from. I mean, yeah, I'm biased in the sense that I'm going to look at an Apple phone. I like to joke that I'm Android curious, but I certainly haven't seen anything from Android or Google yet.
Device-wise, forget it.
Because
this is a glass, stainless steel, and more glass.
It's heavy.
It feels.
I want to talk about the weight in a
substantial
second.
in your hand, but it feels like a solid product.
Yeah.
In your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more than Android curious. I use them.
Yeah.
And I've used the Note 8. I've used the LG V30. I've used the Pixel 2 XL. And this screen is just leaps and bounds beyond. I mean, the Note 8, I gave that a 5-star review in PC World.
Yep.
I loved that phone.
Mm-hmm.
The screen was awesome. The build is awesome. I mean, it was, with the exception of the weird placement of the fingerprint sensor.
Is that the one on the back?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Well, it's on the back, but it's also like way up high.
Yeah, that's just weird.
And I was I talked to my editor and I said, like, I could take off a 0.5 star, and he's like, no, that's not enough to bring it down from 5. So everything else you've written is glowing.
Yeah.
So my only to date 5-star review. I'm not reviewing this one,
Mm-hmm.
but
If you were,
no question.
okay,
Interesting.
5 stars.
Interesting.
But
You heard it here first, folks. 5 stars.
Comparing this screen to the Note 8, which is both Samsung screens. Samsung sources
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Apple sources this from Samsung.
Right.
It is not even close.
Right.
To
In what way?
comparison.
In terms of saturation, brightness?
Samsung designs it to Apple spec, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apple
that's-
tweaked
that's-
the design
that's what it is,
Right.
because of what it wants.
Right.
It is the clarity, the accuracy, the refresh rate when you're just doing simple. Like, I can slow down an animation to like microscopic levels.
Yeah.
When I do that on a Note, you see a little shift,
Yeah.
a tiny shift of the
Right.
Mm-hmm. that extra 60 hertz refresh. There's nothing. This is like it's like moving your finger in a pool of color.
Right.
Pool. Yeah. Exactly. Liquid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it feels
It's
so
just,
liquid.
It's remarkable, and it's the true tone, the brightness. I can't say enough nice things about this display. I've had it for 6 days now, and when I turn it on, I'm still like, wow.
Isn't
Right.
it? Don't you just
Yeah.
want to take it
Yeah.
out and use it because it's just
It's just
it's just so
and
damn
again,
pretty.
as you were
God,
saying,
okay, I gotta
Mike,
stop.
it sounds like I'm being he's just an Apple guy. I'm not. Like,
No.
I have in my desk, I have a Note 8, I have a Pixel 2, I have a Huawei Mate 10. I
You
mean,
just
I
sound
have
like
all
you're in
these
denial.
phones.
Yep.
You're in
But this
denial.
one is just, you can't not say this
Right.
is the best display I've ever used. I'm working on an article now that looks at all these phones together
Yeah.
and compares iPhone to the very best of Android. And I wrote in it, most Android fans or even users won't get to experience the iPhone 10 for more than a couple of minutes at a store, and that's a damn shame
Yeah.
because it is that good.
Right.
I'm sure there's executives at Samsung and LG right now looking at this thing and saying, "How can we do
How
this?"
do we do that for
Yeah.
$200?
Yeah.
Or some cut, some cost cutting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually currently writing the iPhone 10 review for Computer World,
Yeah.
and the display section is just because
Yeah.
there's so much that it's a great display,
Mhm.
but there's so much technology behind it.
Yeah.
And it's just and it's so it's like you want to get that across, but you don't want to bore people either because in the end it results to an amazing, if not the best display in the market. And DisplayMate took a look at this and they were like,
Yeah.
this is the best display we've ever tested.
And they
It's-
just said the Note 8 was the best display like a month
I
ago.
saw that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fascinating. But they're saying that it's near indistinguishable
Yeah.
from perfect.
Even when you take something like brightness, like the Note 8 gets like blindingly bright.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I think DisplayMate said it was up to like 1400 nits or something.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's
absurd.
amazing.
That's
Yeah.
like
Really.
surgical bright.
It's so bright. There's a little indicator at the end of the brightness slider that says like
Will burn eyes.
Yeah, it really does,
burn
like a
your
warning.
eyeballs. Okay.
like it's really bright.
Yeah.
But when I compare them in direct sunlight, because of Apple's True Tone and because of the calibration, it's just as readable.
Yeah.
Right.
Without
Right.
and this is
Without the
only
excessive
probably
brightness. Yeah.
it's probably around 500 or 600 nits.
It's like
just
600 nits or
yeah.
something
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
One of the things that surprised me about this was actually the weight. And I mean, I was unprepared. Part of it, I'm coming from the
Plus.
7 Plus,
Yeah.
which is obviously bigger, but this feels heavier. Maybe
Yeah.
it's big, maybe it's the same weight or slightly more, but because it's a smaller form
Well,
factor.
part of it is they're not using aluminum on this one.
Right.
That's part of
Right,
like,
stainless steel.
It kind of reminded me of a lot of the first iPhone
Yes.
with the the curved chrome.
Yep.
And the next one will probably be aluminum, and they're gonna they'll get a new manufacturing process, and it'll be lighter. But this one
There
is
is something to
definitely-
be said for weight.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. I handed it to a friend of mine last weekend, and he said, this reminds me of like an Audi. It felt like if
like a
Audi had
BMW or something, yeah.
or BMW
Yeah, yeah.
had developed a phone, it would feel like
Sure.
this. And I think it was that weight
Mhm.
that it connotes quality.
Yeah.
It's
heaviness.
not heavy.
It's not heavy
it's
at
just
all.
solid.
No, it's not heavy
like
at all.
you there's no creaking.
Do you
There's
know
there's no bending parts.
Do you know
there's-
the difference between the 7 Plus and the 10?
In terms of the weight?
Yeah, I don't have it off the top
I
of my
don't.
head. Can you?
Let me look real quick while you guys talk.
Because it's probably 5 grams or something. I'm sure
Right.
it's not much, but it does feel because
just feels
it's
solid.
and it's because it's more
It's
compact. You
yeah,
expect it to
condensed,
be so much
compressed.
lighter
Yeah.
because of the iPhone 8 is much lighter, and those types of smaller phones or the Pixel 2.
Right.
But they fit so much screen into such a compact space.
And
that-
that's the one thing that it's taken me forever to get used to. Not the home screen, not the home button being missing, and the gestures to replace it, but the size of it is
Yeah.
what's taken me a long time a few days to get used to. And for the first time in about a week, I picked up my old 7 Plus because I'm about to ship it back to Apple.
it's a monster.
But it feels good. It does. Like
So
I'm
you
just
like
accustomed to-
you're talking about the physical size of
The
it. Like
size
you
of
would
it.
like this in like a 6.3 inch display.
Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah,
I
you talk
I
about
like this.
the next year's model that we'll be
Yeah.
doing this again.
So
Hopefully,
you
in a
want
year.
like a iPhone 10 Plus.
An
Well,
iPhone
imagine
10
this
Plus,
screen
yes.
from end to end on the big form
Uh,
factor.
Yeah.
For the 10 Plus or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
By the way, these things weigh in at 6.14 ounces,
Okay.
and the iPhone 7 weighs in at 4.87 ounces. The iPhone 8 weighs in at 5.2. That's not the Plus now. Those are just the regular. The Plus weighs in at surprisingly enough, this weighs less than the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus, but it feels like it weighs more.
It feels like it should weigh more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a whole lot of technology
Mhm.
packed into this.
Yeah, but that's part of it is just like your brain expecting it because it's so
It's smaller.
compact.
Yeah.
And, so it feels a little bit heavier.
Okay. Any other thoughts before I wrap this up in terms of the phone itself?
the
Things you've-
cameras are great.
Yep.
I use.
It's going to be really
some
useful for
apps.
AR and VR. I
Mhm.
can see how that's going to explode over the next few years. I think with this technology.
Absolutely. Gosh, I just like I said, I can't say anything bad about this phone that's not nitpicking.
Okay,
One complaint:
go for it.
Interesting.
the keyboard.
Yeah,
Really?
feels
you-
small or
You bring it up, and there is a space below
At the
space
bottom.
bar.
I don't mind that.
I do. I know
And
what he's talking about.
I don't mind. I don't
that.
mind that it's there. I mind that it's empty.
Yeah,
Put emoji there.
Well,
or
there
put,
is
put,
emoji. There.
Nuh-uh.
Let's see.
All that's there
Nuh-uh.
is the globe icon
There's
to
the
switch
little-
keyboards
yeah.
and the microphone, of which I don't use on a regular
yeah. I
basis.
don't use that.
Yeah.
So put that.
Yeah. See, there's
Put a list of. No, I'm talking about spread it.
Oh, I see. I got
Put a
you,
list
gotcha.
But
of
is that
commonly used emoji,
Yeah. See,
Flip it
like
around.
currently,
the touch bar.
if you're not familiar, currently right now it just has access to the emojis and access to a speech to text.
and there's a lot of space in between.
Yeah.
But that's to
Mm-hmm.
to switch.
I
But
get
I
it.
get it. But I don't.
It feels like a lost opportunity,
And if you
or
com-
one undeveloped
If you
yet.
compare that space to the 7 Plus, it's exactly the same now.
Is it?
That's the difference
Okay.
between a 5.8 screen and a 5 because of the ratio.
Gotcha.
In height, that's what you're talking about. So you're losing out on just a little bit, like an extra line of text or whatever it is. But why?
Gotcha. See, again, I don't mind that the keyboard was bumped up there.
Fine.
Makes it easier.
For your fingers, I get it, but
But
put something there. Make
Yeah.
it like a touch bar.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
Yeah.
I
Throw
agree.
some commands or whatever it is. Make it customizable.
Some shortcut, something. Yeah, a color, anything. Otherwise, it just looks
undo
like lost
button,
real
whatever
estate.
it is. Put something down. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with third party keyboard manufacturer. They're not able to do anything with it either.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
My other complaint, which is not really a complaint, is that I really want every one of my apps to be
Full screen.
optimized.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I've been
Yeah.
watching them pour in, and it's interesting to go from an app that's
Yeah,
been
it's so much better.
you feel it.
Yeah.
You can tell it.
In fact,
yeah.
I'm using IA Writer as my writing app of choice, and They just came out with version 5.0 yesterday. I was all excited and I installed it and it's still not.
Oh man, disappointment.
But again, you can't say anything that's not nitpicking.
Right. I mean, that's nitpick.
I mean, we're reaching at this.
And that's
point.
true across Android and all. Once you get these new screen sizes, like the apps aren't optimized.
Yeah, but how
and
long
they
does
will
it
be
take
in
on the
6 months.
Android
Well,
side?
sometimes never.
Sometimes
Oof.
next year, maybe.
That one's that's tough.
All right,
Yeah,
so
in 6 months they'll all be, and there'll be better ones, and they'll discover new things to do with their technology and the notch and all this other cool stuff.
last
yeah.
question: case or not?
No case.
No case.
No case.
Mike, no case.
Negative. Yeah, I don't do a case.
I've already scratched it too. It's so sad. I scratched the
Ooh,
glass.
See, I've got a
So,
case. I don't have any
didn't-
scratches.
One thing I didn't realize is
Oh, hold on.
yours is it's like a. I didn't realize it was a black.
Yeah, he's
The
got
black
the black
band.
band around the edge. That's another reason I've got the case.
I like that silver band. I'm not gonna
The
lie.
silver band
Well,
is
I was
nice.
I was just saying I was thinking I like the black.
I like the black, but I would
Grass
prefer
is greener.
this.
It's
I would
grass
pref-
is greener, baby.
I would prefer this if it was not space gray. If it was jet black.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
This needs to not be space gray because this looks like compared to the front, this
Yeah.
looks like a muted black.
Well, this design prize. This is strictly because we meaning Apple, need to make as many of these as we possibly can. There's no gold. There's no rose gold. There's no
Right,
red. We need to
right.
make
Right.
white,
Yep.
black, and
or,
that's
No,
or
I
silver,
agree.
but
Yeah.
it's not really white. Is
or
this?
silver.
That-
Is
no,
this?
it's
It's,
silver.
it's silver.
But
yeah.
I wish again instead of the space gray that they would have gone with the jet black.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I
just
mean-
replace, just darken that, man. Just darken.
I just think
Give
it
me a
was,
shiny
I,
black.
That's what
think
you're
they-
going to get next year.
I think they went with the two easiest colors to manufacture.
No, agreed.
It's also
Agreed.
cool that they got rid of all the regulatory stuff at the bottom of, like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah,
iPhone.
Forget
Yeah.
that.
Like,
I
how do they
it.
do that? Who do they talk to? Like, that's a government
They
regulation.
made a deal. They must have talked to somebody, a deal maker.
Like, they call up someone at the FCC and they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing that this year."
Yeah, we can't. Johnny Ive, isn't happy
he's
about that.
not,
so.
he's not going to allow it.
All right, so to sum up, we all love the iPhones.
Oh,
iPhone
and
10.
emoji is really cool too.
And emoji's cool.
I mean, it's completely useless, but
it's
it's
not
it's
exactly
awesome.
something
It's
you're going to
awesome
be doing in the
use, yeah.
workplace, probably. But yeah, it's
It's
cool.
just cool.
Yeah,
to
That
it's
to
not
me-
an enterprise feature.
That to me highlights the technology
Right.
of the camera system and the AR VR stuff that's
Absolutely,
coming, which
yeah.
which will eventually be part of the workplace.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I appreciate this ability to gush with both of you guys since you've got the same phone, different colors, and just sort of give people a sense for what we're seeing, why we think it's important, where we think this is going. So, Mike, thanks.
Thank you.
Mike, thanks.
Absolutely.
Now you know what we know. That's a wrap.